The question is regarding scumbag immigration lawyers, and there are quite a few. Okay, first off, let me back up. Let me back up a bit. There are the lawyers themselves, and then there are people who are posing as lawyers. Let me address the lawyers first. All states have some sort of attorney registration and disciplinary setup. Here in Illinois, it's the ARDC, the Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission, and so lawyers are required to register every year, pay their bar fees, and they are subject to disbarment if they conduct unethical behavior. And there have been immigration lawyers here in Chicago who've been booted from the Illinois bar over shady practices. Some communities, the city of Chicago is one such community. Some states also have restrictions regarding immigration practice, and so the city of Chicago, for instance, the Department of Consumer Services, will go after shady immigration practitioners. Now, so this is mainly having to do with the non-attorneys. Now, there are good, sound not-for-profits that are trained, that are reputable, they're based in the community, that offer immigration services, who may or may not have lawyers on staff. Usually, though, they partner with lawyers for supervision. They consult with lawyers like me, if they come upon a tough case. But there are going to be the storefront practitioners who, say, pay me $500 and I can get your green card. What's particularly confusing is the term notario, which is the term we often use to refer to these folks. A notario publico in many Latin American countries is an attorney. However, people who come from Latin American countries may see someone advertising themselves as a notario publico when in fact they are a notary public, who can stamp documents and verify signatures. That's it. So a large part of this has to do with community education, and certainly we've been trying to do our best to educate people. Notary publics are not notarios. Don't get confused. But again, there are in many communities and in many states immigration service statutes on the books, and those states, those communities may be actively seeking out cases in order to go after these practitioners. Part of the difficulty is that these guys may take one's money and then disappear, or and set up shop under another name. So this particularly requires vigilance on the part of the community in order to nail these guys. Okay, the question was, what lessons have we learned from 1986? Okay, first off, the lesson that I pull away from 1986 is that amnesty works. I know any number of people who got their green cards through the amnesty. They're now citizens. They run agencies. They're community leaders. I work with some of them. They're really good people. We should be proud to have them as citizens. At least as I see it, what broke down was two things. One is that the 86 law outsourced immigration enforcement to on the backs of employers. Their theory was, okay, we'll legalize the people here, but we'll close the door afterwards. And to make sure the door is shut, we are going to make it so that employers cannot hire anybody who's out of status. By the way, that was the very first time that it became a federal, a federal offense to hire an undocumented person. It was perfectly legal before, interestingly enough. But the federal government said, okay, employers, you cannot do this, and to make sure you don't do it, you're going to have to check documents when you hire people. Of course, what did that lead to? Fake documents. So that obviously didn't work. Now there are now attempts to try to build federal databases to make it easier for employers to check. So far, those databases have been remarkably flawed. There's like a 10% error rate for naturalized citizens. So, unless and until those bugs get worked out, it's probably not going to be a wise path to go. The other big flaw that occurred in '86 was, okay, you're completely shutting the door, but the pressure for immigration is going to continue, and you address the pressure in one of two ways. You either, help the sending countries in developing their economies, or you provide some way for people to come in legally. The law provided neither one, and in the mid '90s, the peso devalued, and thanks to NAFTA, millions of farmers were driven off their farms. Where were they going to go? They came up to the United States, but there was no lawful path for them to do so. So there has to be some adjustment to enable people to come in lawfully. Now, there's a lot of controversy over what that mechanism should be. Should that be a temporary worker program? Should it be more green cards? So the devil, and there are interests advocating either path that unfortunately don't, are clashing right now. So the devil is going to be in the details, unfortunately. But those are the main lessons I pull away. I hope that answers the question. So the question is what people, immigrants, particularly women and children who are in criminal custody, should do, what their rights are, particularly if they're immigration officers who are hovering around the jail or waiting for them in the courtroom. I'm understanding the question correctly, right? Okay. This is a really tricky area, and even here in Cook County, which is liberated territory, it's a sanctuary county. You see this happening. The sheriff's police are at the county jails and at the county courthouse checking people out. So the best protection in those situations is to remain silent. Don't disclose your immigration status. There may be other ways in which the immigration officers may try to suss out someone's immigration status. There are people who are arrested, for instance, for driving without a driver's license, and they're Latino. Well, what does that say? Well, it should not necessarily be an indication that someone is undocumented, but in many cases it is. So, that's and that may raise enough suspicion on the part of the immigration officers who are at the courthouses or at the jails to launch some kind of inquiry. So that the best protection is again, what you don't say cannot be used against you. Now, there's a major exception to that, which is that federal laws do extend certain protections to crime victims. People, and particularly people who have been subject to human trafficking, or for that matter, other people who may be, who may serve as witnesses to, for prosecution of other criminal offenses. Those individuals may be eligible for some kinds of special visas that would enable them to stay in the United States. If that's the case, those individuals should probably work through immigration counsel. So they would want to speak with an immigration lawyer who would be more familiar with these kinds of visas and who can in turn negotiate with the county authorities, with the police, to point out that, hey, you may have these folks, but these folks may be eligible for these kinds of relief.